You are listening to The Parker's Couch. What's up, everybody, and welcome to The Parker's Couch. This is Cameron Parker. I am your host. Normally, I podcast with my brothers, Carlin Parker and Carl Parker, who's been a wonderful addition, joining us with the podcast that Carlin and I started. Normally, I keep the YouTube and the podcast a little separate. Sometimes they cross over here and there, but the next few days, I'm going to be doing a series around Project 2025. And I think it's so important this information is out there that I do it both on the YouTube channel and also on our podcast. Audio only, that's on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, Amazon, different versions. So you have access to this information on either channel that you want to digest it. It is Pride Month. Happy Pride to everyone out there. As you can see, my shirt says the first Pride was, in fact, a riot. Okay. Yes. The first Pride was a riot. And we're going to have to continue to riot, baby. I mean, I think it's so important right now with this voting season upon us coming up that we really get the information out there. And I just started getting more motivated this week. We just had DC Pride here, and it was a wonderful week. Like on Wednesday, I was at a campaign event that was for Biden and stuff that the HRC hosted, and had the wonderful president there, Miss Kelly. Oh, she is amazing. Got to hear her. Had Britta Filter. Some of the drag race people out there would know who Britta Filter is, from, I believe, I want to say season 9. Was she, or 10? No, she was season 12. Oh gosh, don't quote me. I think it's 12. I'm gonna go with that. I don't know what I'm going in my head, which season she was on, but she has done all this work and stuff with drag. And I know why season 9 is popping in my head, because I just saw Shea Coulee on last night, and Shea Coulee was season 9. So that's why that first popped in my head. But yeah, she does this wonderful work right now, Britta Filter, with dragging out the vote. And you know how drag queens have been under attack. But yeah, so we had her there, and like I said, Kelly Robinson, the president of HRC, and some other DNC folks were there in the house, and it was a wonderful event for Biden. And so that gave me some energy. And then on Saturday for the parade, I marched in the parade for the first time in my life, and I marched with HRC. And we also had Douglas Emhoff join us there, the second gentleman. And that was very cool. And just to think, in my mind, I was sitting there walking, and whenever I was marching in and waving the flag and just looking at the beauty of the crowd and all the love that was out there, it was hitting me how this can all be gone. Like in a blink of an eye, like we are foolish if we think otherwise. And it's just so sad to hear just the hateful rhetoric that comes out from the conservative party when it comes to any other issue that's essentially not white based, honestly. So if there's any kind of minority little slant to it or anything, it's this white supremacist umbrella that everything goes under. And I know they're gonna hate to hear that, conservatives out there, but yeah, it is freaking white supremacy that y'all are spouting, whether you know it or not. And that, I don't care if you're black, white, yellow, red, green, anything in between. It's all under the umbrella of white supremacy that's coming out from that party. And so, what I want to do over the next few days is really get into this Project 25. And so, each day I'm going to release a piece of it to digest it. Because what's so interesting is that the Republican Party is notorious for not having a plan. You know, they can get away without having a plan. They never have to unveil anything. As you can see, they've been talking about healthcare ever since Obamacare has been out. All you hear is Obamacare sucks, but there's never an alternative. All you hear about is these immigration issues and everything, but there's never a plan. And when plans are presented out there, they always tear everything down and they just rant and yell. And so you never hear hardcore kind of plans on the campaign trail or have anything written out, but it is different right now, y'all. And I know some of you may have heard about Project 25. You may have seen some things in Congress. Whenever people just been out there shutting it down, especially our Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and some others who have been on people's head regarding Project 2025. But I want to let the people know what is in here. So I know it's all this stuff, and people feel a way about Biden, you feel a way about Democrats and all this stuff and everything. I don't have time to go into that. I have my own feelings, I have my own things, but I understand what is important and what's in front of me. And right now, I don't have no time to be bickering and defending or anything like that, because there's clearly one party trying to end democracy and another party trying to keep it. Do with that as you may, make it feel as you may. I mean, my stance is very clear of where I stand politically, and I'm not afraid to voice that. And you will hear that more and more during this season. Everything that we do is not going to be political on the couch, but the couch is very political between me and my brothers, because that's a lot of things that we do, that we did growing up, sitting around talking with each other. Like politics has always kind of been a part. It was never as big of a part maybe in my earlier life. My parents and stuff, hearing from them things, I've heard plenty of stories. There's always been a political slant to things in our household, but over the years, it's just picked up more and more for me. And I've kind of like laid off a little bit the last couple of years, but I want to pick some of that energy back up. It's never like totally gone away, but yes. So we're gonna get political in here a little bit today. So Project 25, and if you are watching on the YouTube channel, you'll be able to see some of the stuff I'm sharing too on the screen. But if you're just listening, definitely look up the things that I'm going to be talking about. But you can, so here in Project 25, if you've not heard of it, you can go to project2025.org. And the homepage reads, "It is not enough for conservatives to win elections. If we are going to rescue the country from the grip of the radical left, we need both a governing agenda and the right people in place ready to carry this agenda out on day one of the next conservative administration. This is the goal of the 2025 Presidential Transition Project. The project will build on four pillars that will collectively pave the way for an effective conservative administration." Now, we are going to focus more on the fourth pillar, and that's where the playbook comes into play. So there's this 180-day playbook, and it reads, "The time is short, and conservatives need a plan. The project will create a playbook of actions to be taken in the first 180 days of the new administration to bring quick relief to Americans suffering from the left's devastating policies." And so this is all in the fourth kind of pillar of their plan of what they have going on. Now, this playbook, y'all, it is about 920 pages long. So it is not, they're not playing around. And it is clear. Everything is laid out here clearly what they want to have happen. So the idea is that they would be able to get the next conservative president, that they're hoping is Trump, and be able to hand off this playbook and be like, look, these are the actions we want to take place, and go ahead and get it rolling within the first 180 days. Because the idea is that within the first 180 days of a new president coming into power, that's whenever you could get the most stuff done. and get things through and all that. So there is a lot of stuff in here. And this pillar, so the project, I said it, like I said, is built on four pillars. Pillar one, um, it puts in one place a consensus view of how major federal agencies must be governed, and where disagreement exists, brackets out these differences for the next presidents to choose a path. So that's pillar one. Pillar two is in the personnel database that allows candidates to build their own professional profiles and our coalition members to review and voice their recommendations. These recommendations would then be collated and shared with the president elect's team, greatly streamlining the appointment process. Pillar three is the Presidential Administration Academy, and so the idea with this is an online educational system taught by experts from a coalition. For the newcomer, this will explain how the government functions and how to function in government. And for the experience, we will host in person seminars with events training and set the bar for what is expected of senior leadership. And pillar four, what we're going to be focusing more on is the playbook. We are forming an agency team. We're forming agency teams and drafting transition plans to move out upon the president's utterance of "So help me God." So as soon as the president swears in and says "So help me God," they put in this playbook right into play. It's like, here we go. Let's get the ball rolling. And they say, as Americans living at the approach of our nation's 250th birthday, we have been given much. As conservatives, we are much required to steward this precious heritage for the next generation. On behalf of our coalition partners, we thank you and invite you to come join us at our project2025.org. So they are trying to gain a lot of steam and support in this. So, what we're going to do over the next few days here this week, each day I'm going to cover one of the topics that they are, or the promises that they're making in their little quest here. And so there are four major promises that they're making that they want to be enacted within these first 180 days. And this is the part we're going to focus on. I'm going to read through. So today I'm going to do the first promise, and tomorrow I do the second, and so forth. So we're going to cover these four promises. And it's very important to listen, to read, to you want to vote with information. There's a lot of stuff out there, but you need to focus on what is going to happen, what can be done, what is going to affect your life, what makes sense for our country, and what represents real true freedom. That's my question. It's like, what is freedom? What does freedom mean to you? Because right now, if you listen to conservative logic, freedoms are being stripped away and we are not free. And to me, their idea is more government control, more government intervention, more government policies, and taking things away, actually stripping freedoms away from people because they want one type of freedom, and they want the freedom to control how everyone else thinks and acts. And I'm not down for that at all in any kind of way. And so in these four promises, the first one, the promise is to restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. Number two is to dismantle the administrative state and return self governance to the American people. Number three, defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. And number four, secure our God given individual rights to live freely, what our Constitution calls the blessings of liberty. It's so much to say already, right there, y'all. There is so much we can say already just with that little piece that we have right there. But let's get into it. All right. Y'all ready to go down here? I'm going to be reading these and definitely giving my commentary and thoughts. But promise one, restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. The next conservative president must get to work pursuing the true priority of politics, the well being of the American family. And right now, I just want people to picture in their minds like, what does family mean to you? Because I know conservatives have a very clear picture of family. They want family to mean mom, dad, 2.5 kids, dog, whatever that is. It's like that American classic dream kind of picture when in reality, families are much messier and clumsy and look so many different ways. Like they don't believe in a man and a man or a woman and a woman or just a man or just a woman or extended family and all these other branches of the ways that family exists. So I want you to just keep that in mind that there is one clear picture of an American family whenever they use this, whenever they talk about these terms. Let's get into it. In many ways, the entire point of centralizing political power is to subvert the family. Its purpose is to replace people's natural, they use the word natural, replace people's natural loves and loyalties with unnatural ones. You see, this in the popular left wing um affairism. Government is simply the name we give to things we choose to do together. But in real life, most of the things people do together have nothing to do with government. Mm, 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 mm. I gotta read that again. You see, this is the popular left wing aphorism. Government is simply the name we give to the things we choose to do together. But in real life, most of the things people do together have nothing to do with government. These are the meditating, or these are the mediating institutions that serve as the building blocks of any healthy society: marriage, family, work, church, school, volunteering. The name real people in italics give to the things we do together is community, not government. Our lives are full of interwoven, overlapping communities, and our individual and collective happiness depends upon them. But the most important community in each of our lives and in the life of the nation is the family. Today, the American family is in crisis. 40% of all children are born to unmarried mothers, including more than 70% of Black children. They want to make sure they emphasize that, obviously. There's no government program that can replace the hole in a child's soul, cut out by the absence of a father. Fatherlessness is one of the principal sources of American poverty, crime, mental illness, teen suicide, substance abuse, rejection of the church, and high school dropouts. So many of the problems government programs are designed to solve, but can't, are ultimately problems created by the crisis of marriage and the family. The world has never seen a thriving, healthy, free, and prosperous society where most children grow up without their married parents. If current trends continue, we are headed towards social implosion. So, right here, like already, I am so sick and tired of this single mother narrative and focusing specifically on Black children and this idea that families don't exist in single parent homes. And I don't even like to say single parent homes because most fathers are involved. Like, for instance, I have a child. I don't live in a home with my child. My child lives with his wonderful mother, and I have, and we have a family that coexists together, that co-parent. We still are involved with one another. It's not like single parents, however we want to label it, are all the time thrown out, left on their own. That happens. That's reality. That happens in all races. But still, there is family even within those, whatever that family may look like. So I just want people to know that, let that sink in as we continue to go through this. All right. Furthermore, the next conservative president must understand that using government alone to respond to symptoms of the family crisis is a dead end. Federal power must instead be wielded to reverse the crisis and rescue American kids from familial breakdown. The conservative promise includes dozens of specific policies to accomplish this existential task. Some are obvious and long-standing goals like eliminating marriage penalties and federal welfare programs, and the tax code and installing work requirements for food stamps. I just need everybody to get on food stamps one time. Just do it. I mean, they're always, you already have to, like, someone who has been in and out of unemployment, and I'm unemployed right now. I have my part-time and that's it, but looking for full-time employment. The unemployment process is not anything anybody chooses to stay in. No one wants to stay on food stamps like that for the majority of people in this nation. And it's not like you get a lot of benefits from it. And you have to report job searches and all these things already. And they make it more difficult, and they try to suck up the little amount of money that you already get from that. They already think is too much, and they think that that's what people are choosing to do instead of having families and stuff. And taxes don't help with any of that stuff anyway. But we must go further. It's time for policymakers to elevate family authority, formation, and cohesion as their top priority, and even use government power, including through the tax code, to restore American family. So they want people who are already suffering to suffer even more through tax codes. Okay, that's what I'm getting. Today, the left is threatening the tax exempt status of churches and charities that reject woke progressivism. They will soon turn to Christian schools and clubs with the same totalitarian intent. Let me ask you a question though, with churches. I just really, because churches, it's amazing to me with this tax exempt, how churches are able to be tax exempt, but then so clearly express favor for political candidates. So clearly involve themselves within politics and government, but then want to hold their hands like, ooh, tax exempt, you're coming after us. Well, keep religion and government separate. Church and state is really that simple. The next conservative president must make the institutions of American civil society hard targets for woke cultural warriors. So sick of the word woke. This starts with deleting the terms. Listen to this. This starts with deleting the terms sexual orientation and gender identity, diversity, equity, and inclusion, as we know as DEI, which has already been under major attack and is being erased. Gender, gender equality, gender equity, gender awareness, gender sensitive, abortion, reproductive health, reproductive rights, and any other term used to deprive Americans of their First Amendment rights out of every federal rule, agency regulation, contract grant regulation, and a piece of legislation that exists. Just because you may not have access to a grant, say, or something, or whatever because it's specific to someone of a specific identity, that doesn't make that wrong or not free. You still have major access to many other opportunities. I don't understand. For so long in this country, especially as a black person, we did not have access to so many things. And so when things became specific to represent that, now that is wrong. So it wasn't wrong before when we never had access. But then whenever we create access to things, all of a sudden it's wrong. This is whenever you see right now, the big thing of all all these foundations being sued and these scholarships and stuff and black women businesses and I can't remember the popular one going around now that where the black women specifically are being attacked because they're like, this is unfair. How it's specifically for black women. Give me a break with this fairness crap. And you ain't got the nerves to say that this is infringing upon First Amendment rights. This is so ridiculous. I want y'all just to hear this. Like, they want to erase the terms sexual orientation, gender identity, diversity, equity, and inclusion, gender equality, gender equity, abortion, reproductive health. How did that get in there? I mean, and I'm just thinking of dummies like Amber Rose out there. Like, oh, I'm supporting Trump. He's gonna be for women, or he's gonna be more for women rights and stuff. He's okay. So if you're that type, you don't care about reproductive health or reproductive rights for women. It's one thing about being pro-life versus pro-choice, but just to take the option away and force it upon someone, like, I don't understand why your stance has to be someone else's stance. That's not free. That's not freedom. That's not the First Amendment. These people talk so backwards, so hypocritical. Let's continue. Pornography. Y'all gonna find this one interesting, I'm sure. Pornography manifested today in the omnipresent propagation of transgender ideology and sexualization of children, for instance, is not a political Gordian knot. It's strictly binding up desperate claims about free speech, property rights, sexual liberation, and child welfare. It has no claim to First Amendment protection. Its purveyors are child predators and misogynistic exploiters of women. Their product is as addictive as an illicit drug and as psychologically destructive as any crime. Pornography should be outlawed. The people who produce and distribute it should be in prison. Listen to that. The people who produce and distribute it should be in prison. Y'all love trying to throw people in jail. Educators and public librarians Educators and public librarians who purvey it should be classed as registered sex offenders. And telecommunications and technology firms that facilitate its spread should be shuttered. Y'all hear this? Do y'all hear this? And the link to pornography to transgender ideology, like, where did that even come from? And this stuff with child welfare, like, okay, pedophilia and all that stuff is one thing that no one is for, and no one is for any kind of child pornography or anything like that. Yeah, and we have things in place in this country to lock those people up. But grown adults making decisions, doing whatever they want to do with their own bodies, making their own choices, making their own money, doing whatever, like. And what kills me is that the most pornographic people are you closeted conservatives who are probably sitting here writing this thing. The foul things that you have done in life, if that was ever unveiled, can we pull the mirror? Can we go ahead and pull the cloak? and look behind you and see what's in your life, in your past, what's on your searches. What are you searching? It's so funny how transgender, be is trans is like a major pornographic search term in so many Republican states, but yet y'all rail against it like this. But they talking about locking people up for pornography. Okay. All right, Puritans. In our schools, the question of parental authority over their children's education is a simple one. Schools serve parents, not the other way around. That is, of course, the best argument for universal school choice, a goal all conservatives and conservative presidents must pursue. But even before we achieve that long term goal, parents' rights as their children's primary educators should be the non negotiable in American schools. States, cities, and counties, school boards, union bosses, principals, and teachers who disagree should immediately be cut off from federal funds. Let me tell you, who is getting in your way of educating your own child, however you choose to. However wrong I might see it is, it's still your child. You have the right to do whatever you want with your own child, and no school is stopping that. If you don't want your child to be in public school, fine, take them out. Put them in the school that you want them to be in, or homeschool. You have a choice. You have that right, but you can't go ahead and put this ideology on everybody else who is fine. I'm totally fine with the education my child has received through school. You know, I I don't. This is just dumb. This is coming from people who have never even set foot in the school, probably who probably don't even have kids, or who knows how long it's been since they had kids go through a school system. It was so funny to me. I think it was in Texas, if I remember, the one was someone who ran, who was on that fight against, like, oh, schools are doing all this stuff, and they're indoctrinating our kids and blah blah blah. And then she won. And then whenever she actually started investigating and reading, she was like, wait a minute. There's no indoctrination going on. That's fine. Nothing is happening here. All this whole hoopla about, and it's really about sexual orientation that all this is centered around. It's really centered around transness. Y'all have this fascination of trans ideology. It's just beyond me. But gender and transness and sexual orientation is just your main focus. And right there with it, close second or maybe even tied for first is also diversity issues and race and slavery and things of these nature. So these are the two things that you attack repeatedly that you feel like are indoctrinating children. So I'm sure I haven't even read the rest of this, but I know critical race theory is about to come up. I'm pretty sure after this when we're talking about schools. But you're so hooked on that and fascinated about that. But then she found out that that actually wasn't going on. And whenever she tried to take it back to her party and let them know, like, oh, actually, this isn't happening in these school systems, they shunned her. They didn't want to hear it. They like, whatever. And then call her liberal and woke and all these things. It's just amazing to me. Uh, the fight against education right now and what y'all think is happening in schools. And this idea of school choice, that has to be a whole other thing. Like, it's just so much. It is just so much. The notorious tenets, oh, look at there. The notorious tenets of critical race theory and gender ideology should be at let's see. Sorry, I lost my place. Okay. The notorious tenets of critical race theory and gender ideology should be excised from the curricula in every public school in the country. These theories poison our children who are being taught, on the one hand, to affirm that the color of their skin fundamentally determines their identity and even their moral status, while on the other, they are taught to deny the very creatureliness that inheres in being human. What? Okay, and consists in accepting the giveness of our nature as men or women. This don't even make any sense. This makes zero sense. So you're saying like our kids are being poisoned being taught, like, what's wrong with being taught affirmation about who you are, about your color and being proud of that? What's I mean, affirm like how you were born. Whenever society tries to go against that, I'm glad if there is somebody out there doing that, or having books that's saying like, yes, embrace your color, love yourself. What is wrong with that? How does that hurt the someone else? But only uplifts that individual person. But anyway, this whole little part right there, that whole thing just makes no sense, because no one is being taught to deny anything that makes them human, or whatever. But anyway, allowing parents or physicians to reassign the sex of a minor is child abuse and must end. For public institutions to use taxpayer dollars to declare the superiority or inferiority of certain races, sexes, and religions is a violation of the Constitution and civil rights law, and cannot be tolerated by any government anywhere in the country. Are y'all living in a wacko land? Really? They say to be taught the inferiority of certain races. They trying to be like, beat around the bush. We know you think that everything is being taught against white people. You feel like white people are getting the short end of the stick, and everybody's taught to hate you, and white people are taught to hate themselves, and this whole white guilt complex. We talked about this on our podcast a little bit in the last episode. This whole white guilt complex that's really running this country amok. Like, y'all are losing your minds, really. Having one other side affirm does not take away or diminish from the other side. Like, I don't know how you can't see that. It's like the fight against the Black national anthem. Um, Lift Every Voice and Sing. I saw stuff from Sage Steele. Yeah, I got my things with Miss Sage Steele. If you listen to this, our little conversation that we had back and forth on our inboxes in Twitter. That conversation is still, the offer is still there. Anytime you want to talk about it, let's talk about it, sis, because you are doing the most out there. And I'm gonna call you a bigot again, because you are showing your bigoted ways. Once again, every time I turn on my X, I see another bigoted way coming from you, and it was raging against Pride Month, just recently. But yes, continue to show that. But and you and Riley Gaines, and let me not even get started with her. How y'all done made her like this? I don't know. It's just getting weird out here with all this stuff. But for some reason, anyway, let me get back to my point. Sage, on her recent thing, she was railing against Lift Every Voice and Sing. And for some reason, talk about Lift Every Voice and Sing is divisive. Huh? I was so confused. A song called Lift Every Voice and Sing is now divisive, just because the focus of the song was us coming through slavery, which is the American story. Like, that's just as much of the American story as anything else. And how could white people not embrace that song and celebrate that and be happy that slavery is not still around? Like, are you upset because slavery is gone? Like, how is that song not, and it has not replaced the anthem? Like, that's still sung, and then the anthem is still sung. Like, we sing them both. How come everything is not embraced? I feel like other cultures get to do things, but the minute black people do something that's attached to our blackness, it's divisive. I don't understand. It's divisive rather than you seeing it as inclusive. I don't understand how supporting black people doesn't mean supporting everyone. For the life of me, I just will not understand that. But Lift Every Voice and Sing is for all of us. That song has been in any black church hymnal since you grew up. I learned the song I saw it in our songbooks in church, learned it in elementary school. We sang it in elementary school on Black History Month. Sang that song all my life. I've never in my life, a child of the 80s, it was never a problem. Never heard anything about it. Seems like after 2020, y'all at like like this anthem just came out of nowhere. It was just written yesterday, and like no one ever sung it before in life. Maybe you were just introduced to it, and it's a good thing that you were introduced to it because it is a beautiful song and it is a song for everyone that is super inclusive. But I don't know. Y'all put everything that's other as divisive. And this fascination with sets reassignment and kids, stuff that's not like happening the way that y'all are picturing it or talking about it. And calling it child abuse, you're taking rights away from parents to handle their kids however they want to handle their kids. Some people love their kids, and they'll do anything for their kids and they support their kids. And they realize that their kids' life is not their life. And their kids would get to a point in life where there's a cultivation point. You raise, you excuse me, you teach, you set some guidelines, you try to instill the best that you can within your kids, but then there comes a point where they just make their own decisions, you know and that takes time. You're there to guide, but you can't force your kid. Like, trans kids did not just start existing yesterday. This has always existed. You could please go back and watch some documentaries of trans people growing up before this era, and what their transness did to them in households and how they were kicked out and how they had to go through so many hard things for being just who they are. We go back in time, we read things about how this group was always ostracized. So if a parent is embracing their kid going through this journey, whatever that looks like for their family individually, that no one else needs to be a part of, it's no one else's business. But now you're taking those parental rights away from them and wanting to instill your idea of how parents should operate. Mm-mm. That's not freedom. That is not freedom. But the pro family promises expressed in this book and central to the next conservative president agenda must go much further than the traditional, narrow definition of family issues. Every threat to family stability must be confronted. This resolve should color each of our policies. Consider our approach to big tech. The worst of these companies prey on children like drug dealers to get them addicted to their mobile apps. Many Silicon Valley executives famously don't let their own kids have smartphones. They nevertheless make billions of dollars addicting other people's children to their TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms are specifically designed to create the digital dependencies that fuel mental illness and anxiety, to fray children's bonds with their parents and siblings. Federal policy cannot allow this industrial scale child abuse to continue. I wonder what this is going to look like in their idea. I mean, I guess we're looking at North Korea. They want to get a hold of every kind of piece of social media, every kind of bit tech item, and only allow what they deem is appropriate. I I don't know. Finally, conservatives should gratefully celebrate the greatest pro family win in a generation, overturning Roe versus Wade, a decision that for 5 decades made a mockery of our Constitution and facilitated the deaths of tens of millions of unborn children. But the Dobbs decision is just the beginning. Conservatives in the states and in Washington, including the next conservative administration, should push as hard as possible to protect the unborn in every jurisdiction in America. In particular, the next conservative president should work with Congress to enact the most robust protections for the unborn that Congress will support while deploying existing federal powers to protect innocent life and vigorously complying with statutory bans on the federal funding of abortion. Conservatives should ardently pursue these pro life and pro family policies while recognizing the many women who find themselves in immensely difficult and often tragic situations and the heroism of every choice to become a mother. Alternative options to abortion, especially adoption, should receive federal and state support. In summary, the next president has a moral responsibility to lead the nation in restoring a culture, a life in America again. Hmm. All right. That is promise number one. That's just number one, y'all. That's number one. Y'all go out here and rock with these conservatives. Hmm. And sadly, some of you probably agree with some of this stuff written. And there's nothing we could do about that. We know that's out there. I mean, that's just the melting pot that we're in, a diverse thought. My prayer is that that thought just does not win out. Mm-mm. That we allow more diversity of thought to exist and people to make their own choices with their own lives in their own families, operate how they deem necessary. This idea of controlling moral standards of people. I tell you, I've been in a cult. I'm gonna have to share that story one day. This is some high level cult stuff right here. The idea that you know better than everybody else in this country how you should live and what's moral and what isn't. When I swear, we look in your closet. If we look in your closet, what are we gonna find? It's part one, y'all. Digest it, let it sink in, read through this project 2025. And this is why I'm out here doing this, is because these policies cannot come forth. Until next time, see you on the couch. Later, tater tots. This has been a Rosie B production. Catch us next time, tater tots, for a new episode of the Parker's Couch.